First thing, you have to know that 1192 of the VTL is driving while under the influence or intoxicated or per se. 1192. There's per se, which means it doesn't matter if you felt any of the effects of alcohol, but you were driving with 0.08 or higher of alcohol in your blood, breath, or saliva. The other one is driving while intoxicated. That's 1192.3. So we have three versions of 1192. Okay, so 1192.2 is driving while alcohol, blood over 0.08. 1192.2A is called aggravated DWI. Now, this has been on exams, so it's really important that you memorize this. 0.18 have 1192.1. That's ability impaired. That's 0.06 or 0.07. 1192.2 is 0.08 to 0.17. 1192.3 is driving while intoxicated, so there's no amount of alcohol required to be shown in the blood. It's just like the cop has to testify you were drunk. Then there's 1192.4. 1192.4 is no alcohol, it's just under the influence of drugs, so that's DUI. 1192.4A is either combined drugs, so it could be DUI with combined drugs, or it can be drugs and alcohol combined. The one is 0.06, 0.07, that's traffic infraction, driving while ability impaired. So DWAI. For commercial vehicles, it's much lower. It's like 0.02 to 0.04 is something really crazy like that. I don't think they're going to go there with that. This has been on exams. Aggravated DWI, 0.18 or higher. Other thing to know, so far we got 0.08 for regular DWI per se, blood, breath, or saliva, 0.18 for aggravated DWI, and 0.06 or 07 for ability impaired. This is all different for under 21. Now, the way you can make a DWI into a felony is if you have 2 DWIs in a certain time period. And I don't recall how long it was. I think it's 5 years. So if you have 2 DWIs within 5 years of each other, then it's a Class E felony. So that's why, you know that thing in 160 when it's talking about when you have to get printed and it's a misdemeanor in the penal law or a misdemeanor outside the penal law, which would be a felony if the person had a prior conviction? Well, that's why you get printed for DWI. Because if you have 2 DWIs in a certain time period, it's as a felony. And the way that it's still written as 1192.2, but it's as a felony. So it's 1192.2 as a felony. And it's an E felony. So the maximum penalty is 4 years in jail. Plus, then you have to get probation or conditional discharge with the interlock. Is the interlock rule, which is this silly law that says basically it's a period of probation, but you can do minimum 12 months. So interlock, mandatory on all DWI sentences, 12 months. And because of this silly interlock rule, that means that any sentence that you get on a DWI must include either a conditional discharge or a period of probation so they can give this stupid interlock restriction on your car. So if you get the maximum, let's say you get a year in jail for your DWI, that would be the maximum for a misdemeanor DWI. You would still get fucking like probation or conditional discharge, so you could get interlock when you got out. Next, mandatory license revocation. Okay, mandatory revocation on 1192.2, 2A, 3, 4, 4A. On 1192.1, it's a mandatory suspension. So on the infraction, which is the DWAI, ability impaired, it's a suspension, and on the misdemeanor versions, it's revocation. The question they asked on the associate principal exam was an obscure question. It was about, so 1192-1, if you get a second one, it can sometimes be a misdemeanor, apparently, and that's the question they asked on the associate principal exam. They asked about the penalty for it. You had to know that it was not more than 30 days in jail, and the fine was between $500 and $750. So if there's a chart floating around, I think there's a chart in the Tropia notes that was floating around. So if you have that, take a look at it. I believe it's got all the penalties on it. Try to memorize them if you want. But again, for 2 questions, I wouldn't go completely crazy. I definitely would not bother reading the statute because it's horrible.